Hi everyone, and thank you very much, Vinayak and Khaki Lab, for giving me this opportunity in addressing my readers. When these guys approached me, there was a bit of a confusion what I should talk about because I feel that I have almost spoken about everything under the sun regarding crime, terror, all that stuff. Didn't know that what I can choose a subject to discuss this time. So I decided that in those days, this Vikas Dubey encounter was at its peak, and I figured that perhaps the Mumbai readers and Mumbai audience would be curious that finally Vikas Dubey got killed in an encounter despite him surrendering. How does it all work, and exactly what is the difference between these two kinds of criminals, criminal tribe of Mumbai and say the criminals of UP, Bihar, Northern India sector? So it was important as us bring out certain stark differences between the two and also certain similarities which you will understand. Now, my whole thing is that the mafia of UP and Mumbai works on three factors. And honestly speaking, that whether it is US, Europe, India, Pakistan, or other Asian cities, the mafia works on three things. It is always about garam, naram, and charam. These are three words which I think most of my guys will understand. And this was explained to me by a North Indian police officer that whenever the mafia has sharam, whether it is UP or Mumbai, the police will be naram with them. They will never try to show unnecessary aggression if mafia is having sharam. By sharam, they mean that they will not get brazen. They will not, cross a certain Lakshman Rekha. They will not go beyond certain set limits of aggression, violence, crime, or something which will be like challenging the police. But if this sharam or this hesitation to cross that invisible line is broken and violated by the mafia, then police, which were so far naram in their approach, that is soft in their approach towards the mafia, will shed this narami, this softness, and take to garmi, become garam. As in, then they will go hammer and tongs after these mafia people. Now, this could be anywhere in the world, and so is true for Mumbai or UP or whatever. So, in Vikas Dubey case, however, you should know that the police in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar are much more lenient, understanding, accommodating in a different way than I'm saying, than the Mumbai police. Mumbai police has certain reputation for ferocity. Mumbai police has certain background, and they know that going by the reputation, you cannot mess with Mumbai police. However, in UP and Bihar, they can be messed with. They can be taken for granted. Like what happened exactly in Vikas Dubey case. These were 8 guys who had gone to arrest, or they were supposed to go and pick up Vikas for a question, interrogation, whatever. However, these guys were drunk, and they were so drunk that they managed to not only just open fire and resist the arrest, but ended up killing 8 policemen. Now, had this been Mumbai police, even a attack on one or two of them would have galvanized them into such an action that the Mumbai mafia would not have able to combat or take them on head on, like what happened here in Lokhandwala shootout. I don't know if you guys have read that shootout in my book Dongri, where I've described the whole thing in graphic detail. That when the police officers have gone to arrest them at Swati building in Mumbai Lokhandwala, they found resistance. And the resistance was such that 2 officers got an injury on their arms. It was enough for the Mumbai police to get totally riled up. Messages were relayed on the police radio, and there came a time that the police from entire city kind of converged in Lokhandwala at Swati building. And not only that, but there were police officers who were fighting with them on the ground, and there were some who went onto the opposite building terraces and surrounded the whole thing, like BBC, which had conducted the whole encounter live at that time. It was a 6 hours long encounter, which it may happen only in Kashmir in the present times. In Mumbai, the encounter was live relayed for 6 hours on BBC. So what they showed was that how it seemed like the BBC correspondent said that it seemed like it was an entire Mumbai police force against the Mumbai underworld in that encounter. Finally, all those 6 guys were killed after the stakeout, after the shootout that happened there. So the point here is that Mumbai police does not spare. They will never take a mafia guy hitting on them, killing them, or do even any such thing which will be a slight to the reputation and the uniform. In UP, after those 8 guys were killed, it was sure that Vikas Dubey will not be spared. However, in the past, such things have happened where mafia has brazenly gone and killed without any fear of the law. For example, the way MLA Krishnakant Tiwari was killed so brutally. His Scorpio, his car was surrounded by the bikes. He was passing through the field, all that greenery, but he was accosted by the rival gang and he was shot dead by Mukhtar Ansari people. Those people who are owed allegiance to Mukhtar Ansari. Now imagine that these criminals at that time, Brijesh Singh and Mukhtar Ansari, 2 factions who were fighting in UP for supremacy, these guys not only survived all those arrests, but a time came when they became big, they became politicians. I mean, they became MLA from the government, from the ruling parties. In fact, MP Shahabuddin from Bihar, we all know what his track record. We all know that how he has risen to the rank. But MP Shahabuddin, there came a time that they wanted to arrest him, and officers from Bihar were not ready to touch him. He was an MP, and the man, despite all such a long list, he was still visiting parliament and he was still coming back to his own constituency, and the man remained untouched. However, it was a DCP, it was a DCP from Delhi police who decided that if Shahabuddin has to be arrested, he cannot be arrested by local people. And sadly, ironically, she thought that no men officer will be having the guts to close him or to arrest him. They selected women officer team to go and pick up Shahabuddin. Imagine, this is how the kind of clout, this is the kind of fear, and this is the kind of intimidation they have over the law enforcement officers. In Mumbai, it is very different. It does not matter whoever they are. If there is a warrant, if government wants that man arrested, then whoever he may be. For example, you all know about Akhil Bharatiya Sena, that how Arun Gavli has managed to challenge Shiv Sena after that huge rally of 1.5 lakh people, which has taken to Fort Hutatma Chowk, or virtually challenging Shiv Sena at that time. What he did, he contested election. And when he started uh, in the beginning, he had 10 corporators from Akhil Bharatiya Sena. Out of those 10 corporators, one guy was Sunil Ghate. Sunil Ghate was a hitman for Arun Gavli gang. In fact, Arun Gavli himself became an MLA from that constituency. Now, it was his rise was so rapid that once when I attended one of the speeches of a top Joint Commissioner of Crime, he said that if Gavli is not stopped today, the time will come when Gavli will go to the assembly and can be our next home minister. Now we all know that the way this political coalitions and compulsions and they cobble together a unity, a government, anyone can be doing anything. I mean, a criminal, a man with a very dubious record can be at the helm, and the police officers who have worked so hard, so honestly, dedicatedly, will end up saluting a man who they were chasing earlier until few weeks ago, a few months ago. They realized that it cannot happen. Akhil Bharatiya Sena cannot be allowed to run riot. So while criminals in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh ended up becoming MP and MLA, they realized that they have to clip the wing of these guys here. A secret order or a secret understanding was reached among the officers, and they started chasing the Akhil Bharatiya Sena people. They, in fact, entered inside Dongri Chawl. They had some encounters within Dongri Chawl area, and they kind of cooked up or made up all those evidence or cases that was needed for ensuring that Akhil Bharatiya Sena people were having dubious record. The kind of funding that was coming to them was not from legal sources. It was not legitimate means that the party was sponsored by. So it was important that they booked the party leaders, party office bearers. They even got a case against Arun Gavli's family. So, interestingly, those were times when Asha Gavli had started singing bhajan. Asha Gavli is wife of Arun Gavli, and she had her first album by the name of I. She registered income worth crores of rupees by selling those cassettes, by selling that album, a religious album. It is impossible. It is almost appalling to know that 2 crore worth of albums can be sold by the wife of a gangster, Asha Gowli. So IT started raiding them, and everyone kind of got together to ensure that Arun Gavli should not be allowed to manipulate the system in this manner. He should not be allowed to make a mockery of the law. Finally, it so happened that the MLA Arun Gavli could not remain MLA anymore. He realized that he has no more power left. He cannot call the shots. And in fact, at that time, police very smartly used Vijay Salaskar. Now we all know that Vijay Salaskar was an encounter specialist, and somehow Arun Gavli had a mortal fear dealing with Vijay Salaskar. Salaskar's guy who had killed top people from Gavli gang. He had killed Sada Pavle, he had killed Subhash Yende and all those top guys from the gang. So he was virtually afraid that if anyone can kill him in fake encounter, it will be Vijay Salaskar. And Mumbai police knew this. They decided to capitalize on this fear of Gavli, and they got this guy installed in a chowki. They made a chowki outside the Chal, and Vijay Salaskar used to just go and sit in that chowki so that Gavli should not come out. And Gavli, who might be thinking of coming out or canvassing for his election, never stepped out because he was afraid that Salaskar will just stage an encounter and kill him there. In fact, Parambir Singh and his people and also stormed into Dongri Chal and killed some 2-3 people. Often they found that Arun Gavli was hiding in some cavities which was specially created in case if police comes in, then he will go and hide in the kitchen where they keep that gas cylinder for cooking. They had created certain cavities below that place where Gavli can hide. And Mumbai police had gone and raided Dongri Chal and discovered that Gavli was hiding in those cavities. So with this kind of fear psychosis, they ensured that no criminal can even think of becoming MLA, MP, whoever. In fact, when Iqbal Kaskar, who after his expedition to Mumbai, when he came here and in Mumbai he was trying to contest elections, one of the assembly elections, Mumbai police very smartly scuttled that move. Message was sent and he was forced to withdraw from the election. The point I'm trying to make here is that Mumbai police is very serious about their job. They know that if they will not kill the guy or they will not stop the man while he is still rising, while the mischief is in the bud, it will grow to such an enormous level that they will have to then count out to that trouble which they have not nipped in the bud. UP police and Bihar police, they don't think like this. Like, to be honest, I am recalled. I'm thinking of a dialogue which Amitabh Bachchan said in this movie Agnipath. He said, "साहब पुलिस का पगार बढ़ाओ, increase the salaries. 1,500 रुपए में घर नहीं चलता, ईमान कैसे चलेगा?" The point is that if police is taken care of in terms of their expenses, financial expenses, their well-being, their house, blah blah blah, other expense that is needed for life, basic life, they will not cross the path and try to get corrupt and try to take favors from the gangsters, because after having taken gangsters favor, they will not be able to take action against them, which is so important for an independent, fair police, fearless police. In Bihar, they managed to build an entire industry around kidnapping. In Mumbai, it was not allowed. But in Bihar, they had a proper industry, and Firoti Mafia or Apharan Mafia was such that reputed established gangsters were entering into it and they were kidnapping people and crores were made. Now, these people sometimes who were kidnapped, these victims who were kidnapped sometimes, were parceled into the klaxon, that red light which is there on the ambassador. These criminals were put behind the boot, in the boot of the car, those ambassador car, and transported from one city to another, one state to another, and people would not even know that how the victim is being taken. So even if an honest band of officers want to chase them and want to find out, they will not be able to bust, because ghar ka bedi lanka dhai. if there are officers who are hand in glove with this Feroti mafia, this kidnapping guys, they will not be able to find out who is mixed in what way. In Mumbai, there is certain internal vigilance. There are officers. There are people who are within the department even keeping a watch on each other. I don't know if there are any journalists here, but if those journalists would know that if you talk to any officer on an open line, the officer will be too scared to discuss things very openly on the phone. Why? Because they are scared about the internal vigilance system. This system is actually keeping a wireless tab. They are surveilling these guys. They are ensuring that they know that what these officers are doing. And which is why if there has been any conversation between a police officer and a mafia guy, the police would know first that which officer is having allegiance where. Interestingly, you guys know that how this case Chori Chori Chupke Chupke was busted. When this businessman Bharat Shah, he went to the court and said, I want to sue police because they have tapped my phone. It is invasion of privacy. Rohini Salin at that time made a startling revelation in the court, MCOC court, which is Maharashtra Control of Organized Crime Court. As it's a specially designated court under the law. She said that we were not tapping Bharat Shah's phone. We were tapping Chota Shakil's phone calls in Karachi. And because we were tapping his phone call, we were aware that who all were in touch with him. So imagine the way Mumbai police works. They know that who are against them, who are with them. So even within the department, they know that if there are any officers who are passing on information, who are leaking on information, they would know very well. It has not happened overnight. It has not happened so easily. Mumbai police has also learned its lessons in a hard way. There was a time that when police commissioner used to have a press conference and all kinds of journalists without their credentials being checked or verified were asked to attend those press conferences. Now there are some shady people who used to walk into those press conferences with their mobile phone on and nobody would know that their phone is on. But this phone which was on was actually had received a call from Karachi and whatever the commissioner was giving in this briefing in his press conference was directly related to a Don sitting in Karachi hearing everything clearly. Now, which is what? When things become desperate, when they realize that neither MCOCA nor IPC nor CRPC, nothing is happening, then the cops have to only think of one way which gangsters are afraid of, the bullet for bullet philosophy. The Mumbai police had actually conducted a lot of indiscriminate encounters, but then when there were petitions in court and in sessions court and high court had to stop the encounter because they ended up killing one wrong man, there were no encounters. In 1998, this is a memorable year in the history of Mumbai police, there were 100 shootouts reported in the history of the city. Every third day, one businessman or one business tycoon, whether a builder or film people or some other business tycoon was getting attacked and killed. 100 shootouts. That has never happened in the Mumbai police city. The city was safe. We were so proud whenever we try to compare ourselves to Delhi, we say the women in the city are safe. There are no rape incidents here. We are very safe. The city, you can travel in the city even at 2 a.m. at night without getting robbed or killed. But imagine in 1998, there were daylight shootouts. In fact, one person, one businessman called Bharat Shah, who was the owner of the Rupam store, was killed right in front of the police commissionerate. Imagine, just 20 yards away from the police commissioner's office, Bharat Shah was shot dead. Mumbai police were like feeling the angst. They were feeling totally frustrated because they have never allowed the criminals to take this kind of liberty. And that's when they decided that enough is enough. And after 98, when the High Court gave them clean chit, they decided to go after the criminals. They made special squads. And as I've written in my books, I don't want to repeat the same thing because those who must have written my book, they must have read the whole detailed way that how each zone was asked to at least, take 10 gangsters out from the reckoning. And then there were rampant and widespread encounters. It so happened that by 2002-3, no more gangsters were left. There was a time when the youths wanted to join the company. They were so keen that they wanted to become part of the gang because it gives them certain pride, it gives them certain clout. We all have seen in the Ajmal Kasam interview that he said that he was a total riffraff, a useless man, had no respect. But the moment he joined Lashkar-e-Taiba in Pakistan, people started respecting him. Same was the case here in Mumbai. The moment you joined Dawood gang, D gang joined kya hai, D company joined kya hai, people used to start looking at it with due respect. That was the thing that they wanted, and Mumbai police wanted to finish that off. And then they started doing this, that if they put the fear of God in their mind that if you join the gang, you'll get killed. It was after 2002, 3, 4 that the new recruitments totally stopped, and Mumbai police ensured that the youngsters who were trying to make a beeline and thought they can kill one person and they can get a huge supari of 50,000, 1 lakh or whatever, the gangsters will not have new recruits. And thus, by 2004 or 5, there was steady decline in recruitment. Mafia were so menacing at that time, were totally having no manpower, no resources to scare people. I mean, there were some splinter gangs. There were some small people like Ravi Pujari and those gangsters who were wannabes and wanted to reach that level. However, police had ensured that no criminal was allowed to reach the level of Dawood, Chota Shakil, Abu Salim, Rajan. And then they also, through their own strategic actions, ensured that Abu Salim was brought back to India in 2005 from Portugal. Chota Rajan was extradited. Iqbal Kaskar came here. And with this kind of extraditions and deportations, they ensured that those who were managed to rule the roost from abroad should be brought to book from here in Mumbai. And thus, I mean, they might be active from, say, behind the jail, the way Arun Gavli was for a long time. However, they will ensure that no new people are joining the gang. The fear that the spread and disseminated so widely will be cut down. It will be curbed. The city will be made safer place. In Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, what happens is that they are not, say, an umbrella gang. They are not huge syndicates. What they do is that one person, say, a desperado who could kill 2, 3, 4 people, will suddenly be considered a Bahubali. Now, you know, what we see in Mumbai is, in movies, that there's a certain gangster who's very muscular, who's very strong, who's very fit, who's very athletic. If you look at the UP gangsters, these guys are, you know, drunk, liquor guzzling, pan chewing, fat, paunchy, totally unfit man. Their power comes with a gun which is in the hand. If you take away gun from them, the man have no power. The man have no clout. Often I've said that if a common citizen will can disarm a gangster or can somehow take away that gun, there will not be any fear left for the mafia. In fact, I had covered a story for Indian Express that Ramdev Tyagi, he was a police commissioner in '96. He had conducted a public meeting in South Mumbai, where at that time jewelers were very scared about, you know, people walking into their stores and they're trying to rob things away. Ramdev Tyagi told them that please take up a hockey stick and beat up that guy who has come to rob your shop. In the process, if the man gets killed, Mumbai police will support you because you have killed the guy in self-defense. So the point I'm trying to make here is that self-defense is something where you can take on the criminal, you can kill a gangster, and this self-defense is something where even the Mumbai police is using this weapon to ensure that whenever they have killed a guy in encounter, the press release will say that they have actually gone to arrest him. But the criminal resisted the arrest and they were firing the shootout and then they have to kill the gangster, which is what didn't happen to Vikas Dubey. Then Vikas Dubey case also, the man had already surrendered. But what happened was that there was an accident and then the car turned turtle, and the man who can't even stand properly or walk properly, look at his paunch, look at the such an unfit man. When the car turned turtle, he still had the senses and he had the fitness and agility to steal the gun, take the gun away from an officer and point at him. Not knowing that as it is, he'll be killed, but he's trying to show his bravado and heroism there. The point is that Mumbai police managed to script the encounter very well, but in UP or Bihar, they are not very good at scripting it properly, and which is why they line into trouble. But Mumbai police always manage to get away. The only time I remember that the script has gone wrong, or rather I say twice it has gone wrong, was once with Javed Fowda case, that they were trying to look for Gulshan Kumar murder in 1997 on 12th August when he was shot dead, and there was huge pressure on the Mumbai police to find the killer, and they have not been able to zero in anyone. So they realized that the shooter was somebody called Javed Fowda. Now they made a huge blunder that they picked up a guy just because he had a buck tooth and he was selling peanuts outside Mahim station. He was picked up and he was shot dead at Ballot Pier, thinking that he's the Javed Fowda in Gulshan Kumar case. But it turned out, and they in fact announced after 2 weeks that Mumbai police have killed the shooter of Gulshan Kumar case in 2 weeks' time. So they all were trying to get happy at that moment, but that killing boomeranged on them in such a manner that there were court cases and Mumbai police were into big trouble after this encounter. Similarly, the other time that the script has gone wrong was in Thane, that one officer had claimed the credit that he has managed to kill 7 gangsters, and that was the biggest such encounter ever happened in the history of Mumbai police. No single officer had managed to kill 7 gangsters. So Mumbai police officers thought that we have made special squads, but at max we have got 1, 2, 3, 7. Even in Lokhandwala shootout, there were 6 gangsters who were killed. Who is this man from Thane who has managed to kill 7 gangsters? So at that time, I was a very junior level reporter for Midday, and I started searching out that how can this guy kill 7 gangsters. So then I started working out very closely. Then the best thing in encounter is that you have to speak to the witnesses. But these 7 people were killed in Durgadi Fort area in Kalyan, which is a desolate spot. So there are no witnesses. The second thing that you have to do is that how is the bullet wound? So now in always bullet injuries, there is an entry wound and there is an exit wound. So if at all there is a firing which has happened from a distance, there will not be singeing on the wound here. At the entry point, there will not be singeing. But if you shoot at from a very close range, the skin around that wound will be singed, as if there will be charring and burning signs that you can see, because the bullet, while entering, will also burn the area around the wound. So the officer had not taken those precautions, which I spoke to some of the experts from the police department, and we have spoken to some of the senior officers, and we realized that that guy ended up killing those 7 people in a fake encounter, perhaps allegedly, because while the 7 robbers were arrested and was interrogated in the police station, one of them died in police custody. And there were 6 witnesses who could have gone and given a witness that he was torturing that officer, which is why he had to silence other people. And the only way to silence them is to project that these 7 guys were arrested and we were about to arrest those 7 people. They arrest, and he ended up killing. So that was one of the most remarkable encounters that happened in Thane police. But however, the script has gone wrong and there was trouble and the officer had to face inquiry for explaining that encounter. So in short, this is what is about encounters, and this is the difference between Mumbai police and UP police. Also, the Bahubalis and Bhais, they behave differently in both the places, and they face the different kind of retribution from the force in different regions. So guys, I hope you guys have enjoyed this conversation. I'm ready to take any questions if there are any. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Hussain. Yes, we've had lots of questions come in, so I'll quickly get down to them. The first question is from Rahul Vijay. He asks, was the Lokhandwala shootout the first such high-profile case in Mumbai? Were there any other before the advent of audio-visual media?
That encounter, because it lasted for 6 hours, it got widely covered. As I said, BBC had a live coverage for 6 hours. So it got a lot of publicity and exposure. Otherwise, I mean, the encounters, like for example, Amar Naik encounter. Amar Naik is the head of an entire Naik gang. But when he was killed, I mean, that thing was the biggest killing, because in Lokhandwala, 6 people were killed, but they were not, say, such huge people, Dilip Bua and all those guys, but not of the rank of Amar Naik, who was the head of an entire syndicate. But since there was no live coverage, they don't talk about Amar Naik killing so much. Or in fact, that man is Sada Paule. Sada Paule was a gang leader of Arun Gowri gang. When he was a big guy that Mumbai police got. But Lokhandwala got more exposure because of the live coverage and BBC thing.
Right. Next question is from Bharat. Was the concept of encounter existing during the colonial era?
No, there was no such concept called encounter. It happened much later. In fact, encounter started in 1980s. Until then, there was no encounters in Mumbai. There were shootouts.
The next question is from Sagar. He says, can it be said that the UP-Bihar Dons have their eye on some level of political position, while the Mumbai Dons seem to be pure criminals to the extent that they would rather bribe and have politicians in their pocket, but not aspire to get into politics, Arun Gauli being the exception?
There were others also who tried to use politics to rise. I will not name them here, but yes, there are criminals. They find that the best way to atone or wash off their sins is to join politics. And in UP especially, if they have had few killings and they have managed to spread their clout in some way, they think that political ticket would be thing for them to get released out of the problems in jail or police action.
All right. The next question is from Siddharth. He asked, is the Randeer Cena still active in Bihar?
I wouldn't know that even if they're active properly or they are having underground activities. So I will have to really check if they're active or not.
Sure. The next question from Ganesh. He asks, why have encounters stopped in this decade compared to the 90s? Was it MN Singh who was supportive to this way and today's CP is not?
No, actually, honestly, there are no gangsters left. I mean, there might be ex-gangsters, former gangsters, but in current times, there are no new recruits. Tell me that they were having encounters because people are going out and killing. Where are the shootouts happening? Where do you see that people are being killed by guns or by those kind of fighting incidents that were happening earlier? So when there are no people to kill, who will they go behind and how will they get killed in encounter?
Right. Bharat's question is, can Shiv Sena be given credit for breaking the back of the Mumbai Mafia, or is it an urban legend?
Let's not get into political thing. I would like to keep myself totally neutral. I would say rather police. I would not say any government. I would say that police officers or police are the guy who can kill the gangsters. I mean, I really like one friend of mine said that in this world, if police will really be in their element, there will not be any D gang. Because there might be D gang, there might be other gangs, but P gang is the most powerful gang. P as in police gang. So I would always credit police officers, the khaki.
Sure. Ankur asks that there is an old saying that Dawood Ibrahim has many friends in Mumbai police. How far is it true?
He used to have a lot of friends. I don't think there are any more friends left in Mumbai police.
All right. Another question was regarding the 92-93 blasts and the riots. Did it change the dynamics of the Mumbai Mafia?
It has changed the city. It has changed the country. So naturally, it would have also changed mafia. However, what I would say is that the mafia has not been divided on communal lines after that. Though Chota Rajan tried to project the picture that there is the communalism of Mumbai mafia post 93 riots and blast. But there were Hindu gangsters in Muslim gangs and there were Muslim gangsters in Hindu gangs. So there has been no really religious demarcation of the gangs. It was just a bogey raised to gain some sympathy.
Right. The next question is from Sneha. She says, do you think UP-Bihar police will be able to curb the influence of mafia the way Mumbai police did it in the 90s?
See, the police will be always, the power of uniform is such that wherever they are, if they refuse to make compromise, they will be always able to curb the crime wherever it is, in any part of the world. If they take the uniform seriously, then nothing can stop them from handling the crime situation in a way and stop it totally and entirely. When they make compromises, then the criminals get emboldened.
Right. Abhishek asks, what is the primary reason for the exodus of certain prominent underworld members from Mumbai in the 90s? And in present day Mumbai, how active are the henchmen of these big gangsters?
See, now there are no violent crimes as such. They are into non-violent crimes. They are into economic offenses. They are into hawala. They are into benami properties. They are trying to get into construction. They are trying to fund some B-grade, C-grade movies. So there have been no violent crimes as such. However, those guys who were active in mafia in 90s, they have kind of retired and now trying to lie low because they realize that Mumbai police not spare them. So in a way, they are living a life of repentant. That's it. Though not everyone.
All right. Sneha asks, can you tell us a little bit about your hour-long interview with Dawood Ibrahim?
Oh, I have said so many things about it in so many interviews. In fact, in Dongri, Dubai, I think the beginning chapter itself is about Dawood's interview. I'll try to be brief and quick about it. She has asked. Uh, Before Dawood, I had interviewed almost all the gangsters. I had interviewed Chota Shakil. I've spoken to Abu Salim. I've interviewed Chota Rajan while he was in Bangkok. I had spoken to all the gangsters, but Dawood was the only gangster who was left at that time whom I have not interviewed. And in 1998, I was a journalist. I a journalist thinks in a very bizarre manner. He is always crazy after bylines, exclusive stories, breaking stories, trying to get stories which others have not got. So I thought, unless I've not interviewed Dawood Ibrahim, I would not have got my crime stories completed or finished. So then I went on the quest for Dawood's interview, and I spent about 2 or 3 months in working hard on it, working on my sources, trying to talk to various people, and finally I got the interview. So even when I spoke to Dawood, I was finding it difficult to believe it is Dawood until I asked certain questions, which Dawood replied, and then I was convinced it was him.
All right. So, an added question to that is: Mumbai police still trying to get Dawood back? Will it be possible given all the protection he receives from Pakistan?
See, Mumbai police has certain jurisdiction and limitations. Mumbai police will not go beyond Mumbai because their jurisdiction limited to Mumbai. And Dawood is a fugitive of Indian government. I mean, there are cases against him in Mumbai police, but for getting him back, the Indian government, especially MHA, will have to do something about it. Ministry of Home Affairs. They have to use their diplomatic channels to get him back. Unless government gets serious, they will not be able to get Dawood back. So it is not in the hands of Mumbai police at all.
Next question again from Abhishek is: how prominent is the Bahubali politician nexus in Bihar and UP? Was there a turning point in this once Lalu went out of power?
I don't think that it has got anything to do with one particular politician, because we all have seen that the guys who have a lot of criminal records have no problem becoming MPs, MLAs, home ministers. I mean, we all know that in the first cabinet that was formed in the VP Singh government, there was this guy, a minister, who had 36 violent crimes registered against him. So it is nothing to do with Lalu. It is all about people who have managed to commit crime and risen in political ranks. Not about one political party. It is across the board.
All right. A question from Rajiv Sethi. What is the role of the judiciary in eliminating gangsters vis-a-vis Chota Rajan case hasn't gone anywhere?
What is the role of judiciary? See, judiciary, I think this is a bit of a misconception. Judiciary works in a way that you have to present them with enough evidence and documents for them to decide and judge on a particular case. It is for the prosecution to ensure that they come up with irrefutable evidence and incontrovertible proofs which will help judiciary to decide the guilt and convict the criminal. If they don't have enough sufficient evidence, how will the judiciary do? They can't go after investigating and probing things, and if there is not enough evidence, they can't go and kill people. So judiciary is stymied by the fact that they'll have to decide by the available evidence in front of them.
Right. Gauri has also asked that has there been any case where human rights were used as a tool to protect any criminal?
Oh, all the time, actually. They have said that actually encounters are extrajudicial killing, and there was so much of hue and cry, and there have been so many NGOs who have gone to the court and they have tried to put a stop to encounter. And the first thing they always do is human rights, where the police lawyers have always said that what about the human rights of those guys who were killed by this gangster? So it's one very prominent plank that they've used to contest the validity of encounters.
Right. Is there an unwritten code amongst gangsters to not kill policemen as far as possible?
They try not to attack a policeman. They try not to kill a police officer because Hell had no fury as a cop is scorned. So they say that if a cop gets very angry, he will not spare them. So only twice it's happened that Mumbai police was attacked and they've gotten back in a very, very angry, aggressive manner. Once was as JJ shootout, where two officers were killed, and then at other time when Firoz Kokani had killed police officers in JJ hospital. So as a rule, they don't try to take panga with policemen because it will prove very expensive for them.
Right. Sagar is really keen to know about the activities of Pappu Kalani and Gopal Rajwani and their rivalry.
I think they are spent force and they are not as active anymore in the Ulhasnagar politics. Not that I'm aware, I've stopped tracking them, so I'm not able to make a comment about them.
Sure. Chinmay is asking any tips for upcoming journalists?
I think journalists have to go beyond the press release. When a journalist gets totally limited by the information provided in the press release, then they stop thinking clearly about it. The day the journalist will think that he will not be satisfied with the police version, he can always go beyond that, try to find his own facts and investigation. For example, when that officer killed 7 people in encounter, it was like everyone thought that okay, this is out in the press release, we should write about it and we'll try to make that officer a hero. But when someone goes out and finds the truth, only then he gets the reality. So a journalist, if he wants to make a name for himself, earn a good reputation for himself, he should go beyond whatever has been dished out to him in the police press release.
And Pratima asks that do the police of various states cooperate and share info? Do they work seamlessly vis-a-vis gangs?
I really wish that was true. Unfortunately, they don't. There is certain kind of rivalry and competition among the police forces, even in the country.
Okay, we're just down to our last few questions. Rahul asked that are there any of your favorite books on this subject or otherwise in general?
Subject of encounter, what?
Crime, basically, crime, investigative crime.
I like that book, Sacred Games from Vikram Chandra, because that book is a tome. It's kind of a reference book. So he had, if in that story, those who have read that book, they'll find that that book has everything. It has policeman, it has encounters, it has politician, it has terror, like mafia money, whatever that you can imagine can happen in this crime dump. The author, my mentor and my guru, Mr. Vikram Chandra, has got everything in that story.
All right. And the last question is a personal one. Have you ever been threatened or been given any kind of jibes as an investigator?
Yeah. I think I've said about this earlier in my interview. I don't know if they have referred online. I have received at least 2-3 threats, and I've managed to survive those threats. Once was way back when I was in midday, I think in 2002 or 3, when I got a call on my landline, and the guy was trying to threaten me in a very subtle manner that he knows about my child, about my son, who was in a school in Thane. In those days, I used to live in Thane area. So when this guy threatened me, I don't know how to react to that. But showing fear at that time would have been really bad for me. Then he would have known that how I could be scared, how I could be frightened. So I said, maybe, sir, you don't have full information. My boy, his name was Ali. His name is Ali. Now he's actually 22 years old. At that time, he was 6 years old. So he says, Ali is in school, Saraswati Vidyalaya, in class 2C. His name is Ali Ammar Zaidi. And this is the full information about the boy, whatever you want to do. The man was, into so much of boasting and he was so much of bragging at that time. When he heard this, he thought the man is mad. And you cannot, control such a man who's mad, who does not fear the safety of his child, that he is willing to give his child to, gangsters and he's giving the whole information. So for 10 seconds, I heard him breathing very hard. The man was trying to control his anger. The man was trying to react to whatever I've just told him. But afterward, he just kept the phone down without saying anything.
Okay, great. Thanks everyone for being a part of this talk. We have, of course, a lot more talks coming up in the future.